Monster Zero, the death song of three storms, the one who is many, emperor of the cosmos, god of the void, the wings of death, the golden nothing, uh, Slappy Jim, Ghidorah, King Ghidorah. I decided to challenge myself a little bit with my second top 5 kaiju video by featuring a kaiju I don't even particularly like. I mean, Ghidorah is okay, I guess, but he's not in my top 5, or even top 10 of kaiju. He's not even in the conversation. I don't typically get some thrill or twinge when he pops up. I never think, oh wow, Ghidorah, when he's announced as an incoming villain. Half the time, I don't even remember that he exists. It's not even that I hate him, either. I don't typically have any feelings about him either way. I mean, whatever he's doing, it just doesn't do it for me. So the challenge here is picking out any versions of Ghidorah that I actually do like, insofar as I like Ghidorah at all. So let's see. Number 5. Monsterverse Ghidorah. I mean, I guess pick any random normal Ghidorah. Mine is the Monsterverse version, because he looks cool enough, and I enjoyed the conceit that he is an alien monster, and therefore the entire planet is reacting against him. This Ghidorah is the ultimate invasive species, whose very presence distorts the planet's atmosphere. It's one of the more compelling takes on him, compared to the usual, it's a big scary monster from space, look, he's got 3 heads. Because of that, this version actually works in the overall story and ideas they were trying to convey in Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I mean, it was a dumb overall story, like nature, something, humans are bad, something. I don't want to turn this into a rant about the Monsterverse. But the conceit of the invasive Monster Zero upsetting nature was actually a good conceit. Number 4. Des Ghidorah. Suffice it to say that with the Monsterverse Ghidorah as my pick for a random normal Ghidorah, the remainders on this list are going to be different from the norm. When normal Ghidorah leaves you feeling indifferent, any variant, kind of sticks out and edges forward. So from Rebirth of Mothra comes Des Ghidorah, which eschews most of the Ghidorah-ish stuff. He's still got wings and 3 heads, but that's about it. Gone is his golden hue, and instead of 2 awkward legs, he has a stout 4. He's a much more devilish figure with his dark color and red leathery wings, which works with an edgy name like Death Ghidorah. This is like the most metal of Ghidorahs, and I can dig that. I'm also amused that this variation on Ghidorah became the enemy for Mothra's solo movie, because Mothra doesn't actually have any foes that are uniquely her own. So Ghidorah is as good as any, I suppose. But I like they decided to mix it up a bit by creating the most metal Ghidorah. Number 3. Kaiser Ghidorah. Now take Des Ghidorah and make him regal. Godzilla Final Wars is hilariously Power Rangery, like mixing Power Rangers with a Matrix knockoff. Ghidorah even has a Power Rangers form in Monster X, but eventually sheds that to reveal his full glory. Same basic power set, of course, but he looks a lot cooler with his 4 legs and what almost looks like a golden suit of armor. Alternating golden plates with blue undertones cuts a great regal profile. I mean, this might just be a personal affectation, but my first trip to Disneyland was in 2005, during the 50th anniversary, and the colors of choice for the 50th anniversary decorations were gold and royal blue. So it may just be that Kaiser Ghidorah tweaks that part of my brain that associates those colors with something regal. But then, his 4-legged stance has an air of the horse or the lion, both are regal animals. And his elongated horns give an almost crown-like appearance, more so than in most incarnations. So, this Ghidorah is one that I would almost maybe actually buy a Bandai soft vinyl of. Number 2, Shin Ghidorah. So now we get to Ghidorahs that I actually really genuinely like, and the first of the 2 is Shin Ghidorah, from the Godzilla vs. Evangelion ride that was briefly at Universal Studios in Osaka. There's a bunch of things I like about this version. For one, he just looks sleek. There's a really aesthetically pleasing flow in his shape, like basically a golden snake with insect wings. It's just like, mwah, chef's kiss. Second, I like what he's not. It's not uncommon for characters designed in the same shared universe to share certain aesthetic features in common. One of the worst examples I've seen was Jim Lee's redesign of the Justice League, where they all looked like they shopped at the same tailor. It would have been very tempting for the artists behind Godzilla vs. Evangelion to have made Ghidorah look like Shin Gojira, or, I guess, like an angel from Evangelion. Instead, they came up with something completely different. I mean, even different from prior Ghidorahs, and very pleasingly so. Third, I like how his gravity beams actually do something. Most of the time, Ghidorah's gravity beams just act like lasers or lightning bolts, but in the ride, they actually exerted control over gravity. He could shoot them at buildings to do like an anti-gravity effect, then throw the buildings at Shin Gojira as a weapon. The scene of the Evangelions vaulting over and across the levitating buildings was also, like, pretty boss. This Ghidorah is really close to capturing the idea of Ghidorah as a truly alien entity, which I really like. And that brings us to number 1, Void Ghidorah. Like I said in my top 5 Godzillas video, that Shin Gojira was the first Godzilla that I was ever actually afraid of. The first to really convey the sense of Godzilla as an unstoppable, mutated, atomic abomination. What Shin Gojira did for Godzilla, Godzilla the Planet Eater did for Ghidorah. Void Ghidorah is the first Ghidorah I've ever actually been afraid of. I imagine that how I felt when Godzilla's atomic blast bent around Void Ghidorah's manipulation of space-time is probably how kids in the 1960s felt watching Ghidorah materialize from outer space in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster or Invasion of the Astro Monster. This Ghidorah isn't just some kaiju who happens to be from outer space. He's an extra-dimensional Lovecraftian demon of infinite hunger against whom even the laws of physics are impotent. And it's freaking terrifying! Now, what would, like, a writhing, hungering, insatiable Lovecraftian horror be without fanatical cultists? The Ekshif are the other part of the equation, and the appearance of Void Ghidorah is nested within the horror of what the Ekshif religion is revealed to be. A nihilistic death cult is bad enough, but a nihilistic death cult masquerading as a salvatory religion of grace and unity? It raises questions of whether the Ekshif were simply obfuscating their real motives, or do they actually believe that Ghidorah's nihilistic consumption of planets is salvation? And which is worse? Ugh. When the Ekshif mobilize their plan to call forth Ghidorah, the movie hits a fever pitch of dread, anxiety, intensity, and horror that just doesn't stop until he's defeated. It's often said of classic horror and monster movies that fans aren't really scared of them. Like, exhilarated, yes. Enjoy them, definitely. Excited by them and experiencing them as aesthetic pleasure, certainly. But actually scared by them? Not usually. It's a rare Godzilla film that actually scares me. Shin Gojira did it, and so did The Planet Eater, exactly because of how feverish, intense, and terrifying Void Ghidorah and his cultists are. So, I guess at this point, the perfect kaiju movie would have Shin Gojira versus Void Ghidorah. Now I just have to pick my other favorite versions of monsters to fill out the cast.